Hey everyone, welcome back. I'm Dawn, also known as Dragon Rider, and over the next several weeks, I'm going to be taking you through a weekly breakdown of the Grandmasters, talking about the format for each week, the most brought decks, and some reasons why, and kind of look at the meta of the Grandmasters for each weekend, and share a couple of kind of my predictions, expectations for what we'll see over the course of each weekend. So let's start talking about week number one. So, week number one is a conquest format, which is very common now. It's pretty typical. But if you don't know what conquest is, each player has to bring four different classes, one deck for each of those four classes, and then gets to ban one class or one deck from their opponent, and then needs to get a win with all three of the remaining decks that are not banned. It is a purely constructed format, so these players basically will bring what are considered meta decks. And let's talk about those decks that are the most popular. I'm going to show you on the screen here a breakdown for each of the three regions, and these were posted by Lorinda, who does a lot of stats for all of the major competitive stuff for Hearthstone esports. So let's take a look at America's first here. There is kind of the breakdown of the classes and even the decks within those classes. I would say the top three most brought, well, actually, for America's, it's kind of four. Top is the Quest Fell Demon Hunter. I think Lorinda has that as combo Fell. Kazakhstan Druid, which interestingly, I believe the way that he did this is that's basically Spell Druid. If you see it on like HS Replay, it's Spell Druid, but does not have the Glowfly Swarm. And then actually tied for the third most brought in Americas is Quest Rogue and Burn Shaman. Now, interestingly, I was surprised to not have seen more Burn Shaman, but I don't think there was very much Burn Shaman brought, and most of it is in the America region. So let's take a look at Europe. We also have the Quest Fell Demon Hunter and the Kazakhstan Druid, and then Mizaki Mage being the third most brought deck there. And for the Asia Pacific, we have again Quest Fell DH, Kazakhstan Druid, and then Quest Rogue, very similar to America's. Let's take a look at what this kind of means. The three most brought Quest Fell DH, it's flexible, it's got multiple win conditions, and there's a couple of different possible big swing turns. So you kind of either have a big swing turn of the fell damage and going with Jace, or on the other side, you kind of have a big swing turn of the Fellfire Deadeye and a bunch of rushing 1/1s to trade into big minions and use your hero power attack. But now looking at the Druid, this one has kind of become a lot more popular, and the spell Druid and Kazakhstan, particularly since the mini set, because of the addition of Kazakhstan itself and the Scale of Nixia card that allows the Druid to get an additional wide board. Now, this Druid is very well situated against some of the slower and more combo focused decks. So, Warriors, the Owl TK Warlocks, Mizaki Mages, and Quest Fell DH. So, this one is not a surprise that it is one of the most popular decks at all because of the expectation of Quest Fell DH, other druids, and even maybe the expectation of warrior being brought. The one I do want to spend a little bit more time talking about is the Quest Rogue. Now, this one is a little bit more interesting. It does well versus the Quest Fell DH, which, again, we've just talked about how popular that is. And it also does well versus the Ramp Druid. Now, the Ramp Druid is more of the big minion style deck that we were kind of seeing before the mini set came out. But there is a couple of different potentials from Rogue that can help win games. One of those is stealth, and having some stealth minions, especially when landing a large stealth minion on the board that's going to be able to push quite a bit of damage, especially when adding in Battleground Battlemaster, damage from hand with things like Wicked Stabs. Those all make the deck a lot more consistent and can push a lot of damage. And sometimes it can actually just go too fast for things like the Ramp Druid to deal with. And some of those big stealth minions are a little bit too much for the demon hunter to kind of answer, especially with stealth, meaning that some of those removal tools can't be used since they would have to actually target the minion as opposed to just having damage that affects the whole board. Now, to me, I think the biggest expectation is actually I think that warrior is going to struggle, specifically the kind of control dragon style warrior that we're seeing. I think it is really going to struggle a lot. The warrior really answers the aggressive and board based decks very well. There's a lot of removal, a lot of AoE, a lot of armor gain potential to help with those board removal tools. But decks like Fell Demon Hunter, Mazaki Mage, and even some of the slower druids aren't really going to be building those kind of boards. And I also think that that is a very big factor for a lot of the players bringing Kazakhstan druid without Glowfly Swarm. I think trying to eliminate the Glowfly Swarm gives them potential to find more of their ramp and more consistency type spells over a spell that is going to put 2/2s on the board that gets answered very easily by Warrior's removal. The Scale of Onyxia that Druid runs allows those whelps to actually have rush, so there's less of a chance that the Druid is going to be leaving a wide board of minions that die easily to Rancor and giving the warrior tons of armor potential. So I wouldn't be surprised if actually expecting warrior was something that a lot of the players considered for a reason to not bring the glowfly swarms. Now, is there something that you are expecting to see this weekend in this first weekend of Grandmasters with this conquest format? Let me know what you think in the comments below. And I am really looking forward to next week because we get to talk about a completely new format, the new trio format that's going to be happening next week. So the HS esports team is actually going to be putting together like buckets of classes that the players will have to choose from without the other players knowing which grouping of classes are being chosen. And there's no ban in the trio format. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what ends up happening next week with that. So stay tuned next week for that video. Thank you so much for watching. Go out there and make today legendary.